Hello and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. I'm Scott. I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. I go by Tan Newt online. CircuitPython is embedded Python for small microcontrollers, very inexpensive computers that are easily accessible for folks. Our goal is to make it easy for beginners to learn to program using microcontrollers. That's what CircuitPython is all about. You just plug it into your USB, it shows up as a drive with Python code on it, and you edit it, and you're off and away. CircuitPython development is sponsored by Adafruit, so please support Adafruit at adafruit.com. A number of folks in this meeting are paid to work full-time on CircuitPython by Adafruit, so please give them huge props for that. This is our weekly meeting that usually happens on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Adafruit Discord. This week is a bit special because yesterday was a U.S. holiday, so we bumped it till Tuesday. When we do that, we do post in the CircuitPython text channel and pin it as well so that folks know that we've shifted the day. And if you're in the Circuit Pythonistas group, you'll get pinged about that as well. So if you're interested in being pinged about what's happening with CircuitPython and the meetings in general, let us know that you want to be a Circuit Pythonista, and we'd be happy to add you. If you are not on our Discord yet, you can join the Discord by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. That will dump you into the Adafruit Discord, and look for the CircuitPython text channel on the left. Everybody is welcome to join this meeting. We're happy to have folks and hear about what they're working on. This meeting is run in 5 parts. The first part is a community news section where we just go over the latest news that's happened in CircuitPython world. Very similar to our Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. It's kind of just a tease. And then after that, we have State of CircuitPython and its libraries, which is a statistics view of the health of the project. Kind of gives us a nice objective way objective way of looking at the health of the project. So see how many people are involved and what's going on there. So after that, we do Hug Reports, which is a chance for us to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing. Really helpful for just giving credit where credit is due, but also letting people know what we value as a community. That's done as a round robin, so I will start, and then we go through the list of folks in the voice chat and giving everybody a chance to speak. If you don't have a mic but would like to participate, you can put notes in the note stock or in the text channel, and I will read them off. Just let us know you are text only. If you're just here to listen, you can say that you're lurking and we won't call on you. We'll just skip over you. And if you're unable to make the meeting but still want to participate as well, you can put notes in the notes doc, and we can read those off even if you don't make the meeting. So that's how round robins work. The next section after Hug Reports is Status Updates, which is kind of a brief couple minutes about what you've been working on and what you plan on working on in the coming week. And this is done as a round robin as well, so all of those suggestions apply as well. And then lastly, we have our In the Weeds section, which is our chance to have longer form discussions of all sorts and all natures. So if you have topics for In the Weeds, let us know either in the text channel or in the notes that you have something you'd like to discuss, and we will call on the folks that have said that they have stuff for that when we get there. Okay, and that is the overview of how it goes. We are recording this meeting, so if you are in the CircuitPython text channel, we will record that. It's a public channel anyway, so don't be super surprised about that. But for those of you in the voice channel, we do record your voice as well. So please be aware of that, and feel free to go text only if that's your preference. The recordings are posted on Diode Zone off and on, and on the Adafruit YouTube, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. And the description of those recordings also have links to the note stock, which will have time codes in it. So if you ever miss a meeting and want to be able to go back and see what was discussed, and maybe like watch just the spot of the video that discussed that, the notes will have time codes. So With that, my spiel is a lot longer today for some reason, but I will take a time code and get us going into community news. Um, in terms of community news, the latest newsletter is out. Today is Tuesday, and it goes out Tuesday morning. So there's a link here if people want to check it out. If you're not subscribed, highly recommend it. It's always got basically everything we see regarding Python, MicroPython, hardware, not hardware, all that sort of stuff. So it's a great resource. We have over 6,600 subscribers now. So if you know of stuff that we're not hitting, this newsletter at the very bottom, it has a link on contributing. So we'd love contributors for that. And as Mike B points out as well, you can go to adafruitdaily.com to subscribe. We're starting to get more news from the community, so if you want to do that, yeah, you can open PRs on the repo, or you can at Adafruit on Twitter, email pt@adafruit.com, or open an issue. That's totally cool as well. Second up, we had CircuitPython 5.0.0 Alpha 1 release, thanks to Dan. It's available on circuitpython.org/downloads. It highlights some BLE rework that Dan did, along with some more modern or some additional display support for OLEDs, and e-inks is in there as well, so check that out. We have 74 plus boards supported now, which is exciting. Third up, we have the Microsoft Garage interns in Vancouver released their summer's work doing a device simulator for VS Code. So if you don't have a Circuit Playground, or you sometimes don't have access to it, you can use this VS Code device simulator to test your code without actually having a device, which is really neat. So props to them. And then lastly, next week on Wednesday, so a week from tomorrow, Adafruit will be on the Hackaday Hack Chat talking about machine learning, Python and hardware, and more. Details will be posted soon at hackaday.io. So if you're a Hack Chat person and want to talk machine learning and Python, check out next week. I think Phil and Lamore will be doing that. So that'll be cool. Okay, and with that, let's go on to the state of CircuitPython and its libraries. Overall, in the last week, and thank you to whoever dropped these in because I forgot to grab them. Overall, 34 pull requests merged from 8 different authors: Dan, Halbert, D. Carrata, Jerry, Brent, myself, Zon235, who's new, Amos Costi, and Seditious. We had 10 reviewers, which is actually pretty rare that we have more reviewers than authors, so thank you to everybody there. And yeah, so 34 pull requests merged, which is awesome. And we had 9 closed issues by 5 people, 8 open by 7 people. So we're net down by 1, which is ideally we're net down by more, but it's okay to be sustaining for sure. So that's all good. Overall, we just got the first alpha of 5.0 out, thanks to Dan. You should see us pick up the pace in terms of making alpha releases and beta releases available for 5.0 in the coming weeks. And we'll probably do at least one more bug fix of 4.1. So we'll probably do a 4.1.1 just to get the .star bug fix that Dan did, along with a couple other board support, I think, as well. So all hands on deck on 5.0, but we're not quite done with 4x either. Okay, so let's talk core. From the core side, we had 8 pull requests merged from 2 authors, Dan and myself. We had 5 different reviewers, so thanks to all of those reviewers. Those are Lady Ada, Dan Halbert, Jeff Epler, Jerry, and myself. We have 13 open pull requests, which this number's gone up. And so if you can help do requests or reviews on that, or reviews on anything, it's super helpful. We had 6 closed issues by 5 people and 4 open by 4 people, so we're net down 2, which is good. And we have 176 total open issues, which is good, because I think last week we were over, or in the last couple of weeks we reached 180, which is a bit much. We have 6 active milestones. We have 9 issues not assigned a milestone, which we should take a look at. And we have 10 open bug fixes for 5.0, 7 open issues for 5.0, and 2 feature issues for 5x0. We also have one 6.0 issue, but that is just a, like, when we do 6.0, let's turn this API off sort of issue. Download stats by board are available here. I will not go by board. I will not read those off. But our download count for 4.1.0 is now 4,849, and our download count for 5.0 Alpha 1, which was released on Friday, is 23. So please, if you haven't tested 5.0 yet, please do that. It would be awesome to see what people think. We have download stats by language in the notes as well, but I will not read those off. Instead, I'll kick it over to Kattni for library overview.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. So on the libraries this last week, we had 26 pull requests merged by 8 authors, including Zon235, and who's new. And we had 7 reviewers, which is also excellent, especially to see nearly as many reviewers as we have authors. So thank you to everyone who has been working on both sides of that situation. We have 38 open pull requests at the moment. They are all linked in the notes. This is the fact that we have 38 pull requests is something we are working on sorting so we can better track open pull requests and make sure things aren't slipping or getting lost in, signal to noise issue. And I can talk about that later, but we are working on that. So if you have an open pull request and we have not responded to it, please feel free to either ping us on the PR or ping us in Discord. We are doing our best to make sure that we get to all of them, but there's only so many of us, and there's a lot of open PRs, and we don't mind you letting us know that we have missed yours. We had 3 issues closed by 2 people and 4 open by 4 people for 134 open issues. There is a link to those in the notes. And we had 2 new libraries over the last week, and a very long list, not very, but a fairly long list of updated libraries, which I'm not going to read off. But those are linked in the notes as well if you want to see what it is we are up to. And that's where we are with the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you, Kattni. Okay, let's go on to Hug Reports. As a reminder, Hug Reports is a chance for you to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing. If you are lurking and don't want to say anything, let us know you're lurking if you haven't already. The ground truth for that is if you're marked as lurking in the notes doc, so please check that out if you want. If you don't have a microphone, you can be text only and either put it in the notes or in the text channel, and I will read it off. And then lastly, otherwise, if you're participating, we'll do it as round robin. So I will start, and then we'll go down the list. Let me start. I think that's all the details. So first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to Summersoft and Jeff Epler for their audio work, poking around with the DMA. There was this weird issue where the left and right channels were getting out of sync, which is really fascinating. So excited to dig into their PRs later today and see how that went. Thanks to Dan for the release of Alpha 1 for 5.0. Really excited to see that happen. And thank you for being the guinea pig on the GitHub CI stuff as well. Thanks to Dan and Jerry for the .sar fix, figuring out that we weren't quite sending the right bytes when we're updating the .sar. So really happy to see that fix. That was a weird one that lasted for a while. So thank you to those two. Thank you to Kattni for recreating a community helpers role on Discord. Originally, community moderators was called community helpers, but people got confused between asking for help and being moderated. So it's really nice to see those two things split off again. And thank you for Kattni as well for recruiting our first 2 members of the community helpers role. Thank you to Entol for Circup, which is a new CLI-based tool for updating libraries and things like that. In my notes, I call it Hiccup's cousin. Thank you to Jerry for the forum help. I was on there last night and this morning, and it was nice to see people had been helped over the weekend, even though some of us had taken off for the weekend. And lastly, I wanted to thank Dave Estells for the work enabling screenshots of the screen. He added a way to basically retrieve the bytes of a single row, and that was really cool and really beneficial to LearnGuide. So thanks to Dave for that. And with that, I will circle around and around we go to Brent.
Hello. Hug report to Jerry for getting AT control work up to speed with ESP32 Spy. A bunch of people use the particle boards, and now it's definitely it's running parallel to how we have all of our Wi-Fi boards out, which is really nice. Katney for feedback regarding subcategories and a new bundle. That would be interesting. And then Info for Circus.
Nice. Thanks, Brent. Okay, Carter and Seagrover are lurking, so we'll go to Charles.
Well, I guess I should issue my standard group hug for this week because I have nothing. I didn't get a whole lot done with CircuitPython. I'm working basically on a couple of projects with Blinka, so that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. All right, let's go to Dan.
Hi. Okay, a bunch of things. Thanks to TAC for spending quite a while figuring out why I couldn't get BLE HID to work on iOS. It had to do with report IDs and HID descriptors, and it was a really simple fix once he figured it out. Thanks to Scott for reviewing my BLE API PRs, both library and core CircuitPython, and having a lot of back and forth on that. And we have an extensive video chat about that too. As Scott mentioned already, thanks to Jeff Summersoft and Kevin Walters for looking at these DMA issues that have to do mostly with audio. We still are not out of the woods on that. Thanks to Jerry, because every time I pushed a change for BLE or the PyRuler stuff, he would test it in about 5 minutes. So that was fantastic, and it really sped up the pace of those pull requests. And thanks for Arturo, who made kind of a minor PR to add a new flash chip that he's using on board of his for CircuitPython, but then he noticed he immediately tracked down some issues with the new continuous integration stuff. And together we worked and figured that out. Okay.
Nice, thanks, Dan. All right, Dave and Dave are lurking, so we'll go to Hierophect.
Just a standard group hug this week, since I gotta get back into it.
Sweet. Thank you, and glad you made it. Okay, Jeff Epler.
Hi, group hug to everybody, but some people I want to single out are Summersoft, Kevin Waters, and Dan for helpful pointers while working on this DAC stuff. I'm really building on other people's expertise as I work on solving this one. And Summersoft again, because he's continuing that mixer voice work, which if you're getting tired of it by now, you're probably not wrong, but it's good to see you continuing on. And thanks to Adafruit and Lady Ada for helping me expand my work on CircuitPython. Right now, I'm still kind of going along at the same level, but in November, it's really going to take off.
Sweet. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, before we go to Katney, I'm going to read Jerry off, who's canoeing, I believe. So Jerry says, congratulations all on the 5.0 Alpha 1 release. Special thanks to Dan for fixing the PyRuler.star issue and for BLE updates. And lastly, thanks to Seditious and Summersoft for helping me interpret modern lingo. All right, Katney.
Okay, so first and foremost, I have a hug for Mad Bodger and Osterly for accepting the well-deserved invitations to become community helpers on Discord. I noticed that specifically that Mad Bodger was helping pretty much everywhere all the time, and thought we should recreate that role and explain that obviously it means getting pinged more, it means being more visible. And he was still excited about doing it. And I asked him to give me any other names, and he gave me Osterly's name. And so I discussed it with him as well, and both of them accepted. And now we have 2 new community helpers, which is great. I want to give a hug to Carter and Seditious for help with a Trixie RTC breakout that it turns out requires you to have a coin cell battery in it to operate at all. To Jeff Epler for helping me get a PDM mic going on CircuitPython. Pro tip, check your wiring again. No, really, one more time, because your garbage data is probably the wiring. To Summersoft for discussions on more improvements to Adabot, and to the circuitpython.org/library/contributing. And lastly, to Seditious for helping out with verifying some pinouts on a board and slogging through a very incomplete data sheet with me.
Awesome. Thank you, Katney. All right, King of North is lurking, so we'll go to Maker Melissa.
Hello. Okay. First of all, hug report to Lady Ada for helping me with the TensorFlow object detection demo, and just a group hug to everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Mike B's lurking, so let's go to N Toll.
Hi, folks. So a group hug to everybody. What I found just doing some work on this circuit thing, I love the hiccup mispronunciation as well, which is very apt given the state of the code, because it's not quite working how I want it to. But I just want to mention Lady Ada Limor, just for some help that she's given me, and pointers and suggestions, and also to Dan, who about half an hour ago sent me a really great idea for something. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. I feel that I'm feeling around in the dark at the moment, but what I'm finding is really great. So thanks for all the people who.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicholas. All right, let's go to Summersoft.
So, so first off, I have a hug for Dan for some discussion and some pointers on Mixer. Which I'm not getting tired of, but it is a slog, I think, at this point. Thanks to Jay Epler for tackling the M4 DAC weirdness. It truly is weird, and looking at the errata in the sheet and the various places people complain about it. And then thanks to Katney for the decision to bring back the community helpers role. I think it's cool. And then subsequently, thanks to Matt Bodger and Australia for accepting that the word responsibility is wrong, but it's the only one I have at the moment. So, and then the group hug.
Awesome. Thanks, Summersoft. Okay, lastly, I have notes for Seditious here. So Seditious says, hugs to Arturo182, Dan H, Lady Ada for helping me figure out NRF pinout compatibilities. Thank you to Andon for a quality mod discussion about fostering teachable moments when the chance arises due to inconsiderate behavior. Awesome. Thank you, Seditious. All right, and that's it for hug reports. Let's go into status updates. Status updates is a chance to take a couple minutes and talk about what you've been working on, both in terms of like what you did last week and what you plan on doing this week. We run it as a round robin, so just like the section we just did. So again, lurking, text only, those are things that it's nice to know. But yeah, let me get started. For me, last week I swapped us over to GitHub Actions for the CI. This will only happen on master, so this will not apply to 4x. But Dan used it and it's been okay. It's not been super bad or broken. There's been a few hiccups, but nothing super bad. And I think we've all benefited from the faster runs, which has been really good. Okay. Nicholas, I'll go to you after me once I finish. Okay, so we did have a hiccup where not all release assets for 5.0 Alpha 1 were successfully uploaded, so I will be poking it this week, swapping over a token to hopefully get that working. I added a hallowing M4 board definition. I added a write to then read from to the I2C API, which you should use over using stop equals false. I merged in the new refresh API, the monster mask support, and the ePaper support as well. In terms of backwards compatibility, wait for frame and refresh soon in 4x should just not be needed. So you should be able to just remove it and rely on the auto show stuff, or the auto refresh stuff that both 4x always does and 5x does by default. I went to PAX on Friday and had fairly good discussions and interest around CircuitPython. I connected with one of the Playdate developers from Panic and kind of confirmed that it'd be quote unquote fairly open. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how open that is and what, if anything, we can do to get CircuitPython on there. So that'll come next year sometime when they're kind of out of the woods. And then for this week, I need to fix up I2C display. Jerry found out that the SSD 1306 doesn't work right now. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to swap the API token for release uploads, and then I will release Alpha 2 is also a test of the release stuff. And then after that, I have to finish the .hidden property of group and tile grid. This allows you to like hide or show something without having to remove it from the group and lose your ordering, which should be good. And that's like the last work item I have for display. And then item number 3 is to get BLE image transfer demos going and work from there. Work from there meaning figuring out how to do file transfers from a mobile device onto a BLE device. So that's exciting, and that's a turning point for me. So that should be really cool. Okay, let's skip ahead to Entol, who's got to take off shortly here.
Yeah, Scott, thank you very much. Because I'm in the UK, it's
yeah,
it's the end of the day for me.
Right. No worries.
I've got dad taxi duties to do. So yesterday I started some work on a new utility called Circus, which is a tool that allows folks to update the modules that might be on their connected devices. Circup is obviously for CircuitPython update. It's going well so far. Like I said, sometimes it feels like I'm wandering around in the dark, trying to find out how certain things work and what the conventions are and stuff. But then after about 10 minutes, it all suddenly becomes clear, and I go, I see what they're doing, and hack my way around it and do useful stuff. So it's a command line utility. Hopefully it'll be finished by the end of this week, and I'm looking forward to getting feedback. I love feedback. If you want to take a look at the repository, I'll paste that into the channel. Please feel free to jump in with comments and suggestions and things. I like that sort of stuff. So that's it from me. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicholas. And for those who don't know, the doctor implies it, but Nicholas is also the author of Mew. So that is coincidental. Okay. Let's circle back around to Brent.
Hello. Last week. Wow, there's so many notes. Last week I finished up my work on Cloud IoT, so now that's another IoT service integration that uses CircuitPython. I started an Ethernet manager to make the Ethernet featherling more easy to use, instead of just relying on the core API. I got pretty far, but I had to stop because the core socket API throws OS errors and timeout doesn't work, so I'm not going to continue writing it because I don't want to hack together timeout. I'd rather just work from the core. And then I picked back up work on the ATEX secure chip library. This week I'm bringing up new boards, doing more work on ATEX 608A chip. The IoT monthly newsletter comes out Friday, adafruitdaily.com to subscribe. And then I'm restarting grad school and I have my first lecture. That's it.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that, Brent. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, Charles.
Well, I have an interesting thing that I did. I cobbled together using CircuitPython and a barometric pressure sensor, and I actually did a quick and dirty data logger just to see what was going on in the area as far as the storm was concerned. And pretty interesting. I didn't bother to take a picture of it, but CircuitPython made it really simple to do.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Okay, Dan.
Okay. So as I mentioned, TAC found the cause of BLE HID not working, and that's now fixed in the latest pre-release of that library. HID is still a work in development in terms of its API, so you'll see changes coming up. And as I mentioned, I finished the BLE pull requests both for the library and for the core. There are some interesting changes in addition to additions that we needed to support BLE HID. BLEIO is now, we've decided to designate it as underscore BLEIO so we can mess around and change the API and not expect people to hope that people won't depend on it. We will be able to change it in between major releases. So we don't really want to freeze that. We want people to use a Python layer of API above that instead of the low-level stuff.
Right.
I fixed the dot star problem that's already been mentioned numerous times. There are real issues. Dot stars are not, you can buy them from different manufacturers. They don't work quite the same way. They might work to the spec, but maybe not, and their clock rates and other things can be different. So we had to accommodate for the new batch, which happened to be used on the PyRuler first, and had to figure that out. I prepared and released Alpha 1 release. The most interesting part of that was going back and going through all the pull requests, figuring out what was going on. And my next order of business is to do actual bonding instead of just pairing in BLE, that is remembering the pairing information. And that's kind of the last thing that needs to be done for a nice functional bit of BLE to have in 5.0. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Okay, Dave and Dave are lurking, so let's go to Hierophect.
Okay, so not too many updates for what I've done over the past couple weeks because I got caught up in a bunch of moving craziness that took way longer than I was hoping it would. So, but this week I'll be moving on just a bunch of rapid fire action items. So getting the pull request that should resolve all of the kind of USB setup and modularity stuff that allows STM32s to have multiple different boards, kind of support the differences between STM32 boards. And then after that, pretty rapidly moving through analog I/O, wrapping up the rest of bus I/O, and getting QSBI in there, which should make a nice round kind of beginning of the port for STM32 and kind of get a lot of the base functionality we want in there. So,
sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Well, I didn't have a lot of time during the weekdays last week, but I squeezed as much as I could in on the weekend, and that was mostly working on the audio and analog out bugs. And so I've kind of talked about that, but on Arduino it looks pretty good, and on CircuitPython there's this weird stair step when you increase the value of the DAC by more than a threshold amount in one step. And I don't understand why that is or where in the hardware that could possibly come from, but that is at the root of several of these problems. And I had a fix that makes it sort of better, but also it messes up reading the SPI flash, which kind of makes the board not work very well. So that's something I realized only later when I was like, where are my files? Where are my files? Anyway, this week, I'm expecting the I2S audio hardware to get here, and I'm going to take a break from the audio stuff and work on I2S audio out on NRF. Take a break from audio to work on audio.
I was going to say.
And yeah, and so I'm hoping that we'll get to pull request state maybe next weekend, but we'll just have to see because there's no code written yet, and I don't have any familiarity with I2S, but we'll get there.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, before we go to Kattni, I'm going to read off Jerry's. Jerry says, not able to attend off in a canoe, which I think made a bunch of us jealous. Jerry says, updated the ESP AT control library. Now uses Adafruit requests and works with Adafruit IO HTTP library. Hope to get mini MQTT working soon. Fixed the LIS3DH library to access the ADC. Not overly useful, but it works now. Found a fixed CircuitPython 5 compatibility issue in the slideshow library. And lastly, tested BLE updates with CircuitPython Alpha 1 working well. Let's go to Kattni.
All right. So I apparently have a very long list.
I'm pretty
Last
sure
week-
you always do because you're doing so much.
That's fair. Updated the PDM microphone breakout guide to include a CircuitPython example and also to include the new PDM microphone with JST breakout. So there's a new fritzing object for that. And it works pretty much the same, except you can just plug in a stemma cable, which is nice. Wrote the product guide for the ATECC 608 with a fritzing object for that as well. And that has no CircuitPython code for it yet. So that guide only has Arduino. Discussed with Summersoft updates to Adabot to better track open PRs and issues across the libraries. Worked through how to better utilize circuitpython.org/library/contributing for what it was intended for, which was to be able to track PRs and issues across the libraries. At the moment, it builds weekly, which is not often enough. And so we discussed, I discussed with Justin, who's one of our web dev guys, that how could we pull the data from elsewhere so we're not trying to do a PR to circuitpython.org every day because that's untenable. And it turns out our first idea of pulling the data from S3 is apparently probably doable. And if not, there's other ways to do it where it's pulling data from elsewhere. So the data will be uploaded daily and the site will be built daily, but it won't involve individual manual PRs. So that'll be good. Created the community helpers role and brought on 2 community members as community helpers. If anyone has any suggestions of community members for consideration, please feel free to contact me on Discord privately. The role is intended to be a way to recognize those who are putting a lot of effort into embodying what we're trying to do with creating a supportive and positive community and who help out across the entire server. So please keep this in mind when suggesting someone. This role does mean that they're making themselves more available to the community in a more visible manner, as the role is explained as pingable for assistance. So it may not be for everyone. And obviously inclusion is ultimately up to the community member as to whether or not they would like to accept that. But if you see someone who might fit that, feel free to let me know so I can take a look and we can talk about that and possibly add more people to that role. So this week, I'm going to do a quick sweep of library issues and PRs, probably more like library PRs, as there is no quick sweep of issues and PRs right now because there are so many. I'm going to be doing the product guide for the Circuit Playground Bluefruit, which is going to be very similar to the Circuit Playground Express, and in fact use a lot of the same pages with something that says, hey, this looks like the Circuit Playground Express, but it works for both. I'm going to be making the decision this week on how we're going to handle the Circuit Playground Express library. Definitely, I think we're going to go with the .bluefruit module, which was the reason that there was a .express module in the first place. But still thinking about import manner. The next thing on my list actually is going to be held off because there is a bug in 5x that needs to be fixed that affects what I was going to do. So that's going to be a bit. I need to update a series of old libraries that were created before we standardized Cookie Cutter. That is actually for Circup for Nicholas's script because he found a bunch of libraries that don't have the right version numbering system and that sort of thing. Depending on what kind of time Summersoft has, possibly working with him on updating Adabot, and depending on that, possibly working with Justin on updating circuitpython.org/libraries and /libraries/contributing. We are, I forgot to add, going to be updating the CircuitPython main guide FAQ and troubleshooting sections to explain that we are dropping the 2x and 3x bundles, and do a hard link to the last build so that if people, for whatever reason, refuse to update CircuitPython, they still will have access to the last time that we built it, but that will be it, and we won't support it. So that's going to be updated. And then there's a PR in for that, and we can merge that PR once all of the documentation is updated to match it. So that's something that I want to actually get out of the way before doing anything else. So we can just get that done, and you know, it'll be good to go. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Katney. All right, let's go to Maker Melissa.
Hello. Okay, so last week I was finishing up a TensorFlow install procedure for the Raspberry Pi 4 and writing a guide for it. I worked on testing some of the e-ink PRs, and I updated the display buttons to be a subclass of a group. This week I'm going to finish up that Raspberry Pi guide. I'm going to work on finishing testing up the e-ink pull requests, and I'm going to try and get back to working on some of the Blinka stuff, like writing new guides and adding new boards, pull requests, and stuff like that.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Okay,
Thanks.
let's go to Seditious.
Howdy. So let's see. What did I do last week? Last week I finished up or got the airlift Bitsy Wing guide as close as possible to being done, just waiting for pictures. I also finished the CircuitPython driver for the TLV 493 board that Katney designed. In terms of personal projects, I started another complete reroute of my keypad for the third time because I made yet another design decision change, and then also figured out that the NRF 52840 doesn't easily do 8-bit parallel, so can't do that easily. And then let's see, this week I'm working on the guide for the TLV. Also going to be doing bring up and testing drivers guide, all that fun stuff for the PCT 2075, which is a low cost temp sensor with temp triggers, which is kind of cool. And then I'm also going to be doing even more routing on my board, and I will post now a picture of what I've been doing. Yep, that's it for me. More of that to come.
So for
yes.
the NRF 8-bit parallel, I like somebody merged it in saying it did work. Like,
okay, we can talk about it offline then. I'm not going to reroute a board the fourth time though.
Yeah. I don't think it's hugely beneficial, but I thought it worked.
Okay, using the high-speed pins, but like, does it have hardware backing it up, or is it all like bit banging?
My understanding is that it's just bit banging. You're just writing a byte to the port peripheral or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
In the same way the SAMD the SAMD is doing it that way too.
Okay, so you can write a whole byte, because I've found a driver that Dan linked me to that is just setting the bits one by one. Theoretically, I guess it could have the pins non-sequential or something.
Right. So
which is,
I assume that they're in order.
Right.
Like they're one next to each other.
Yeah, I think the problem is finding high-speed pins that aren't being used for QSPI that are sequential. I think I wasn't able to find a combo that did that.
How high speed is high speed?
I think the datasheet says low speed is like 10 kilohertz.
Oh, really low.
Yeah, I was like, if it's like 100 versus 400 or something, that'd be fine. But
right,
no, you'd just be giving up everything you got for going parallel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, Summersoft.
Hello again. So last week for Mixer, I finished using all the available built-in intrinsic functions on the M4. That was something that Dean had started, but just hadn't kind of finished all of them. Due to size constraints, I disabled Mixer size constraints and suggestions. I disabled mixer on all the M0 boards. Dan, in our discussion earlier this week, had pointed to some possibilities to slim down the straight C code where the intrinsic stuff isn't available, but I wouldn't make any promises on that. So it may come back to M0, but no promise. And then I made mixer backwards compatible with audio IO mixer, where the new module of audio mixer is available. And then elsewhere, so on the core docs, basically anytime we used a table and read the docs, the text wouldn't wrap in each of the cells. So it was just constant horizontal scrolling, which is no fun. So I got that fixed because there are some overrides available that are now included. And then, so this week for Mixer, address anything brought up during another round of reviews. There's currently one outstanding. There's a parameter called channel count, which the doc string is wrong regardless, that I had missed changing, but it doesn't lend itself. It's used for mono versus stereo sources or samples basically, but it doesn't really, you don't think of that when you hear the term channel count, unless you're an audio engineer, I think. So need to rework that. And then as Katney alluded to, I'm going to try and start working on the necessary logic in Adabot to start working on some metric information for the issues and the PRs. Things like time doubles, how long it's been open, checking for if a label is available on the repo, and then if it's been assigned to issues or PRs and stuff like that. And then also moving basically the JSON file out of the repo and into S3 so that we can increase the interval in which it's update and not add to the touch time and having to approve and merge a PR every time. And that's all I got.
Awesome. The reason I called it channel count is I probably overly future-proofing myself to 5-channel audio or something. But.
Right, and I'd mentioned in Jeff's review comment, I pointed to raw samples use of channel count, and in the description of the class, it goes into and explains, if you have multiple channels, it'll just alternate on the stream. But in a mixer sense, when I look at a mixer, you wouldn't necessarily have multiple channels, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's really just stereo or mono, so.
Right. Yeah, I'm it's fine if you want to change it. I'm just trying to give you that background.
No, I get it.
Thinking too far ahead.
You're good.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Summersoft. Okay. Let's go in the weeds. In the weeds is a chance for us to just have any longer form discussions that we need to. It could be a technical topic, community topic, or anything in between. So we will kind of go down the list, and we will add add Carter stuff too. Let's go to Seditious first.
Okay, so I just had a second thing to talk about. We can come back to it if need be. My first thing I want to talk about was what the kind of current status or plan or timeline is for doing something with concurrency in CircuitPython. I know we've got that great chat thread that we've been discussing different options and whatnot, but I just the other day had to explain to someone how to blink an LED and look for button presses at the same time. So I was, that's that particular example or variations of it that are close to that are common enough for new people that I feel like having something, either a better explanation than I can provide off the cuff of how to do that, or something in the code to support it, I think would be useful. So just wondering where that is. I think this is a Dan question more than anything else.
Well, I just had a discussion little more about this. I mean, yeah, she'd like to get to it, but we have to figure out what to do. But nothing is imminent.
Okay.
The button press specifically, you could use Deshipu's built-in gamepad thing. Yeah. Which does a C-level look at a bunch of buttons and record their state, and that's useful for doing that quickly.
But you still have to like pull on it or something to figure out when it's been pressed, or
I can't remember what the.
You do need to read it. It won't interrupt you. Yeah. But
right, exactly.
If you don't read it while it's pressed, it will remember that it was pressed like since the last time you checked.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And Radomir also has this like straw man library that he worked up to do a very simple event loop, like kind of mechanize how an event make it easy to build an event loop with decorators and stuff. And it would be nice to look at that in more detail, but we haven't done that.
Okay. All right. Yet. So like not for the next month or two.
Yeah, I don't see this. I mean, we might want to turn on async and await to enable this stuff in 5.0 at some point, but I don't know yet. I'd like to get to it, but I have to finish the other stuff first.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Are you leaning in any particular direction? I haven't read the thread in a while, so in terms of approaches.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
There's no. Either we'll make something really simple that solves 70% of the problem, or
just this problem.
Yeah, this problem. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
My other thing was, I don't know if there was anything more to say about the parallel on NRF, but the chat was continuing a little bit in the text, though. I didn't know if there was anything else to say there. I don't have anything, but if anyone else has input.
Sound like it.
Well, while I was playing with the PWM audio out, it didn't seem to matter which pin I used, and that's synthesizing, like up to a 44 kilohertz signal. So, I mean, it was fine, and I wasn't using the radio, so I have no way to assess whether it was interfering with that.
Okay, yeah, my use case is a keyboard that needs, wireless keyboardness, so the radio would be necessary. So I don't know, I'll try it on a different rev or a different board or something and see how bad it is, if it is that bad.
Right. I mean, I think
10 kilohertz is a fine polling rate for a keypad, isn't it?
Right, but
that's not for the keypad. That's for the screen. Yeah, that's for the screen, not the keypad.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and there may be some discussion of it in like the Nordic Dev Zone forum or something like that.
Okay.
So, like, how much difference it really makes. There's more in the data sheet than what was put in the chat. Like more discussion of what what the problems are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Charles, did you have something to say?
I have a sort of a similar problem as how to catch key presses and releases for my MIDI keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm sort of doing it a rather primitive way, and it rather is really slow on the uptake as far as sounding the notes are concerned.
You're using a GPIO expander for that too, right?
Yes, I am, so that I can build like a 12-note octave.
Right.
And then clone it, hopefully at some point clone it to get more octaves without having to press a button.
Right.
So that's I have a similar puzzle, how to pull that fast enough so that I can get a reasonable response when I convert the button press to a note on or a note off.
Right.
I hopefully he won't mind me volunteering him, but C. Grover has done a lot of very similar stuff. You might want to talk to him. I'm sure he's got some input that would be valuable.
Oh, that would be cool. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Charles. Okay, Dave Bracetti from Tech says, let me take a time code. Hi all, I won't be fully on the call today, but I want to throw out an idea about a directory of the CircuitPython community. Maybe an online spreadsheet with who's working on what, relationship to Adafruit, general bio, professional and personal, Twitter handle, YouTube channel, LinkedIn profile, and the like, geographic location, or maybe at least time zone. It'd be opt-in and community maintained to help newcomers like me get oriented and make connections for collaborating, contributing, and the like. Any comments on that? I kind of feel like GitHub profiles could be that. But what are the folks
so
think?
this came up when we were chatting briefly about, it turns out we live like 15 minutes away from each other. So that was a surprise to both of us, and it kind of came up. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. Obviously, maybe it's just me and my background in development on the interwebs, but there's a little bit of caginess about fully putting all my info up on the interwebs, and I'm sure other people have similar thing. But nonetheless, if it's opt-in,
right,
put in whatever you want, and then just make it accessible. I think there is definitely a lot of value there.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
Is there a way to link from your Discord profile to GitHub, or is that not on their list of integrations? I see I can link to my Steam, but GitHub is just not as important to them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's not all in one place either. I think as Dave suggests, like maybe a spreadsheet is just fine to start with.
Well, and if you're cagey about putting your ICBM location or even your time zone, you just leave that block or that cell in the spreadsheet blank, and nobody's going to fault you for it.
So we just at the top we have to be like, only put your own information in, basically.
Yeah, that would definitely be. We need to do that.
Although I think it would be okay for us to say like, so and so GitHub username is working on X, or like that sort of stuff would be okay. So yeah, I guess somebody start it and we can see how it goes. I'm happy to put my stuff in there. You all know most of it anyway, but all right. Yeah, related to that, I did think about whether it would be cool to do like a blog series about CircuitPython contributors where like somebody does like interview questions, kind of like PyDev of the week. But as kind of a way to highlight the folks in our community. Again, they obviously have the option to do it, but that's another idea around that.
I would like that because I would love to know more about all of you people, even if the price is telling you more about myself.
All right. Well, the challenge is finding somebody who can write that up and run that. That's the tough part. So if anybody that sounds cool to you, anybody listening to it, we're happy to reach out and do that, and we could get it on the blog and everything too. So cool. All right, let's go to Carter. Carter's a chipmunk. Okay. Let's go to Jeff Epler, and we'll go back to Carter as he de-chipmunkifies.
So, I mean, I see that we keep struggling to fit things onto particularly the M0 boards.
Right.
And I wonder, do we ever deprecate or remove support for boards and say, just like the old bundle, we're not going to update the 3X bundle. We say, well, sorry, we added so many great things in 7.0 that your itsy bitsy won't work anymore, or whatever it would happen to be.
I would hesitate to do it. I mean, we did the NRF 52832 and the ESP.
Yeah, that's true.
Between 3X and 4X, and I think that was the right call. But as long as that core workflow stuff can apply to M0 still, which I think will be true for a while, I think it would be good to support them, to continue to support M0s.
But that we would not add new functionality to them, like when we come up with the synth audio synth or whatever it is that you want to add, and that just doesn't fit.
Exactly.
We say, well, you don't get that feature, but you keep the core
Right.
advancements.
Right. Yeah, like more to this model of like boards have different modules available, and there's kind of like rough classes of boards with the same sort of functionality available. That's the model that I would continue to live within.
I had a discussion with Bill Binko about this also, and one of the other constraints we have is that some languages are really large, their translations, and so there's this sort of trade-off. Was like, well, only if we only include features that the largest language allows us to support on the smaller boards, it seems limiting in some sense. And so the question is, can we still continue to squeeze the translations down by using a better compression scheme? There's some ideas about that. Or maybe thinking about offloading the translations into a file that lives compressed on CircuitPy.
Right.
Or something, which would be a different, and that makes it harder to update. That makes the updating process a little trickier. But that's another idea, to make the boards more long-lived in the long run.
Or make them English only.
I would argue against that. I think too much technology is English first, and so I would really fight for continuing to do that. Continuing to have all of the different languages supported and everything. The one thing that I would maybe be okay with is like maybe we turn off the terminal output stuff for different languages, because we have to store the built-in font, and that takes space. I think I'd be okay with making it so the built-in font didn't work, and the auto serial stuff, but especially because on M0s, like the display stuff is not that common. Like the only board with it built in is Hallowing M0. So I think that would be a way to get some space back for things like Chinese and stuff.
Right.
But
how complete is the Chinese translation anyway? Because if it's tight now and it's translated 50%, then when somebody finishes the translation, suddenly it doesn't fit.
Chinese is, I think I could speak a little bit to it because I played with the characters in both Japanese and Chinese pictograms, and you're really creating a monster.
Well, the only Chinese we now support is Chinese Pinyin.
Oh, okay.
I would like to support regular Chinese, but I think, as Dan alluded to, like
that I think would be painful, because if you just to give you a picture, a brief picture, I used to translate when early on in my career. I used to translate from English to Japanese. I kind of use it, and we went and you went from a 101 keyboard to like 350 keys.
Right.
Which the character set is rough to begin with.
Right.
It's large to begin with, and then various groupings of them would create a massive.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree with that, but we have to understand that like it's really important. Like supporting non-English language is really important. So that's something I'm willing to pay space for.
Has it ever occurred that maybe you want to try to do a translation with what they call the phonetic alphabet? That is that works with the Latin characters.
Right.
Well, that's what the Pinyin one is. Yeah. So I think figuring out ways of offloading it off of the internal flash is kind of a good idea in the long run.
I agree. Yeah.
I had this internal debate most of last week on Mixer specifically. I was using the M0 as my least common denominator, and it was only failing the Pinyin builds. It left space everywhere else. And I started to debate it internally, and I did come to the point. I'm kind of with you, Scott. I think that supporting larger languages is more important than adding new features. When you get down to that level, I mean, obviously the M4, and hopefully someday the M7, we don't have those constraints, but I still do think that having it as widely available is better than
Right.
putting in new features and
Yep.
limiting the language.
Yep. I agree too.
Is the limitation mostly just flash size for Chinese? I mean, like with Japanese, I guess you could just do everything in Ghana, but with Chinese, like, do you have to fit like all 7,000 or 74,000 characters in for that to be
We're not just talking. It's just like, I mean, let's forget the font part. It's just how much do the UTF-8 or UTF strings take?
Right.
How much space do they take? So the pinyin translation is it's like a bunch of accented characters, accented Roman characters.
Right.
And so those get larger, and also the language itself. Like if you just look at French versus English, it's just that the way the vocabulary of the language makes the translation about quarter to a third larger than the equivalent English. So
I was just looking at the Unicode size for CJK is about 74,000.
yeah, we're not talking. We're really just talking about how much space the strings themselves take when encoded.
Gotcha.
And Scott already Huffman encodes each string, but there might be a way we might be able to use a dictionary-based compression scheme, but I haven't found a convenient library that works out of the box for doing that. That does LZW, that is like zip style compression for multiple strings. They're all stream oriented, and I'd like to have a bunch of short strings that share a common dictionary.
Right.
And I haven't found a library out of the box that does that yet.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, it's an interesting problem.
To work on. Yeah.
And then the other thing is the Huffman solution right now accepts any byte. Like the Huffman tree includes bytes that are not in the input string, so that theoretically when you load like an MPY or a PY file, you could theoretically compress it at load time and reuse the dictionary later, but we don't do that currently. It's a tricky problem.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be trickier for Chinese rather than Japanese.
Right.
There might be easier ways to handle that for Japanese.
Well, there are phonetic alphabets for different Chinese dialects. I mean, this pinyin is an example, and I think there are ideographic ones like that too.
Sure.
But it's then you have to have two versions of Chinese. Then you have to like have a Cantonese.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Yeah.
Radomir, I'm not able to hear you. Can anybody else hear Radomir?
No.
Your bubble is green, but I can't hear you. Can he hear me? I assume so. All right. Still no. He's saying something. He was trying to make the argument in the text chat that like we could definitely do Japanese because like the Game Boy is able to do Japanese.
Yeah, because they just use hiragana. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you just put the little spaces in between the hiragana, and that's that pretty much.
All right.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
But
Dan.
it's also just true that the languages, as like the example that Jeff Epler gave in the chat, of like some things are just longer. So
Yeah. Yeah, it tends to generate very long strings because it's like it. Although it shouldn't be too bad because you should be able to. It's not any bigger than was it? I'm sorry, I can't get it connected in my brain, but the the standard Unicode encoding. What is it?
UTF-8.
UTF-8.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be any bigger than that. If you for Japanese, for you can stick to the hiragana, it should not be any bigger than that. I've seen it as it.
All right.
I used to be able to express lots and lots of the technical terms in very small spaces.
But I just want to point out also, this is not really a problem just with these Asian Indie graphic languages. The German, Polish, and to some extent the French translations are also all pretty large.
Right.
And it's just the structure of the language is.
Yeah, we'll always have a largest language.
With German, you conjugate the word the. That makes everything larger. If you think about it.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna pull us out of these weeds.
Yes.
And let's go to Carter, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, if I'm not Chipmunky.
You sound good.
Okay, woo! Let's see, what did I have? It was about NeoPixels, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it's related to. I'll link an issue here. This issue that's been open for quite some time. I kind of keep coming back to it because people keep kind of tripping up on aspects of this in the forums.
Okay.
And I kind of want to see if I can move forward and fix this. But it brings up a couple of legacy things with the current NeoPixel API or library or whatever you want to think of it. There used to be only, as I understand it, there used to only be BPP, bytes per pixel.
Right.
And you kind of inferred from that the pixel order. But unfortunately, there's all different pixel orders also.
Right.
So you had to add that. And now you kind of have two things that more or less can contain the same information, can sometimes conflict. And for backwards compatibility, we kind of left in the BPP.
Right.
But it makes the logic like overly complex.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think there's at least 3 different NeoPixel libraries out there. There's the Arduino, there's the CircuitPython, and then I think there's something separate for Seesaw even. So there's some slight differences in what's going on amongst the 3.
Yep.
So it'd be kind of nice to standardize on what should be done with that. And my suggestion is just to get rid of BPP altogether. Pixel order is needed.
Right.
Because there are different pixel orders. There's RGB, GRB, all that.
Yep.
And pixel order gives you the BPP. So there's really no reason for BPP.
Right. Have you looked at the repos that Roy pointed you to?
I have. I've kind of skimmed through those.
Yeah, I would say that's our future. It's just a matter of like exactly when it gets here.
Right.
But it is like it factors out a lot of the core APIs of those RGB LED things into Pixel Buff. Which not only gives a more consistent API, but it also means that like a lot of the operations will actually be faster. Like we'll get a big speed boost from it.
Right. Yeah. And that's like, for example, he's gone to strings instead of tuples for what actually is under the hood.
Right.
For the things, and that's fine. That won't really change things from a user point of view.
Right.
But I guess I haven't dug through it enough to know exactly what his thinkings are in terms of BPP. Is he going to keep it around, or is he just going to get rid of it?
I believe it's removed, if I remember right.
That sounds right.
But yeah, I would be in your. I agree with you. I think we don't need BPP anymore. We just use pixel order.
Okay.
But if we're moving to Pixel Buff, there's probably not a lot of point in working through moving it in NeoPixel because Pixel Buff is not that far out.
Right.
Okay, so maybe just hold off, let the Pixel Buff stuff show up, and then we can modify this in line with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both getting rid of BPP and switching to the different, using the strings instead of the tuples. Like it looks like he's importing, like right now the tuples are defined in the neopixel.py, and he's getting rid of that and importing those definitions as the strings from Pixel Buff. So kind of reusing them, which is totally cool. Yep. So once that becomes available, we can switch to that.
Yes.
And get rid of BPP at the same time. Okay, exactly. So I'll hold off on that and try to keep an eye on when that all is mature and available.
Yep. Okay,
so that's the second thing is semi-related to this. There's this notion when you have RGBW neopixels and someone says, hey, I want RG and B to be the same values, it goes, oh, you're probably wanting to generate white, so let me just ignore those and turn on the white LED instead.
Right.
And it's a good idea, but it trips people up when they get unexpected behaviors. And that's another thing where I think the logic is slightly different amongst the 3 different flavors. Mm-hmm. And I kind of question if is this doing more harm than good, adding more confusion than good, instead of just like making it just straight up explicit. If you have 4 channels, you control the 4 channels. You have 3 channels, you control the 3 channels, and so be it.
So you can, I think, if you use the tuple, right? Like if you provide a tuple, you can do that. It's the question of what do you do when you're given just a number, right? And I like.
So you're kind of implying that supplying the information with tuple would be a different behavior than supplying the information with a number.
Yeah, and the reason that I wanted to support the numbers is because that matches the way that you think of colors largely on the web, right? Like it's very common to exchange colors in hex, like 6-digit hex values.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see beginners doing both. They kind of just they pick one or the other, or they'll kind of bounce back between the ports, just whatever seems to be the most convenient for what they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're just starting out, I think the tuple is the most intuitive. But once they start actually writing code like rainbow cycles and stuff like that, they realize it's easier just to work with a single number. And they'll kind of bounce back and forth between the two.
Hue and saturation, HS what?
HSL.
That'd be you could do RGB or you could do HSB. So it's just a different way of specifying the 3 degrees of freedom, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, and HSB seems to be a lot easier to implement rainbow in.
Right.
True. And that can be handled by just a helper function or something.
Right.
So I'm talking more just the most direct way that it's currently being handled.
Yeah, it's either 3 number or
yeah,
one,
just an integer or a tuple,
and then the tuple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a good response for that.
My general feeling is that I think it's adding more confusion than
the number is.
No, this auto magic white behavior.
Yeah.
Where you notice that they're specifying RG and B to be the same. I think maybe there was early on there, maybe it was the original idea that you could control a RGBW neopixel with a 3 tuple.
Okay.
So if you wanted white, you would just say RG and B are the same value,
right?
And it would drive the white channel for you, kind of neatly.
Well, if you're going to do that, if you allow that, you had that one that would mean that actually the right way to do it is all bits on. If you see a value of what is it, 6 FF, right? 3,
no, but the
5s, that is white, and nothing else should be white.
Well, that's not true because the white has brightness. So if you do all C's, like, should it use the white pixel or should it use all 3 of the color pixels? Right, like. I don't know. I think there are advantages to taking the number in. The number itself, unless we use support for long ints, we can't have 4 components there. So yeah,
Right.
I don't have a good answer to that.
Right, and I have a second issue for 32-bit ints for, like, if you actually want to have an int for the 4 channels, what should the layout of it be? Because that's currently also kind of ambiguous. But that would be kind of a follow-on issue of how to support RGBW with the integer. So right now I'm just kind of questioning,
Well,
you know,
Well, I
to me the tuples and the integer should both behave the same way, and I kind of advocate this auto magic should go away.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to understand that you have 4 different little LEDs in there, and you just want to drive the 4 with these 4 different numbers.
But that's what a tuple is, right? Like, I think the only reason to have the integer support is to be backwards compatible with, like, standard RGB hex stuff.
Yeah, because everybody's usually using a function like, that reads something like RGB and then in parentheses 3 numbers. That would be but that could be, that function could accept a tuple.
Carter, I'd also be curious if you could just link me to people being confused by this so I have more context.
Yeah, I should probably do a better job of trying to keep track of that for you. But it kind of goes with the flow of everything I'm doing in the forums.
Yeah.
Like I've had this note written down for several weeks to bring up.
Yeah, well, the next time it comes up, like, maybe file an issue about it or follow it up somewhere. We can take it from there.
I do have that issue I just linked. I do have one forum link there that you can look at.
All right.
So
all right, well, I'm going to wrap us up. We're super long, so.
Okay.
We'll think on that.
Okay.
Okay. This has been the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for September 3rd, 2019. Thank you to everybody who made it out for this extra in-deep discussion of In the Weeds. We really appreciate it. This meeting happens regularly on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Adafruit Discord, which you can join by going to adafru.it/discord. We'll get you in there. The meeting has been recorded, so you can check it out on the Adafruit YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. It will go in the Adafruit Daily next week on Tuesday as well. We should be regular time next week as well. And there's something else I was going to say. Check the notes or the description of the videos for links to the note stocks as well. So yeah, I think that's it. We'll see everybody next week.
Okay, have a good week.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one, folks.
Yep, we're out of here.